Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the Free Minds Thrive podcast. My name is Bobby Vincent. I'm your host. And whether you're watching this live or whether you're seeing the recorded version on YouTube or Rumble, or you're listening to it on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else, I want to thank you for being here because I know that your time is precious, your time is valuable, just like everybody else's, mine included. And the fact that you decided to be here and listen to me is an honor, and I hope that I can provide tremendous and immense value to you in this episode and anything else you watch that I'm a part of. So let's jump right in to what I want to talk about today, which actually came up while I was having a discussion with some really awesome people online earlier today in a live audio conversation. And I was asked the question, what's something you realized about yourself that was essentially a game changer in your life? Something really important that you realized about yourself. And the idea was that it was probably going to be a negative thing. And I thought about it and I thought about it and I took a little bit of time because I'm like, I want to give the right answer here. And I want it to mean something to me. If I'm going to take time contemplating a question and giving an answer to people, I not only want to make sure it's authentic and true and real to what I think, but I also want to make sure that it provides value to them and to me, right? So I thought about it and I said, all right, this is a great exercise. So as I thought about this question, I realized that procrastinating for so many years of my life, procrastinating not because I wasn't good at the things I was doing and actually doing good things, because I've had a very good life. I've been blessed that even in the times of my life where I wasn't giving it my all, where I wasn't all in, where maybe I was procrastinating on something, that doesn't mean I did that with everything, right? But the things that I did procrastinate with is primarily because I wanted them to be perfect. I thought, if I can only give it a little more time, if I can only wait till the exact moment in time is right for me to be doing this thing, then it'll come out perfectly, exactly how I have it in my head, in this abstract, perfect form. I can get it out and it could be perfect. Because what I noticed tended to happen with me in the past is that when I would go to do something that was in my head and I would put it out there in the world, even if it came out great, even if others enjoyed it or appreciated it or celebrated it or said, wow, that's awesome, and made a comment, to me, it didn't come out exactly how I imagined it being. And so my perfectionist mentality would kick in and I would just keep going until it was perfect. Now, I think that's a good thing. I think we should strive for perfection. I think that we should strive for getting as close to perfection as we can before we have to say, that's good enough. And this is something that I learned and that I shared earlier in that conversation and that I really want to harp on here with you. Is that if you're somebody who procrastinates a lot, especially if it's because you are trying to make something perfect, quote unquote, perfect, which doesn't really exist in the world. We live in a perfectly imperfect world, whether by design or it's just the way it happened. It turns out nothing can be perfect. And in fact, sometimes perfect is subjective. It depends on the perspective of each individual who's looking at something, whether it's perfect or not. Right? But I still didn't want to let myself down. Anytime I would go into a creative project, whether I was working on a short story or saying, I'm going to finally write that novel I keep talking about, or building a business or so many other things, you don't want to spend so much time trying to get it right that you miss out on the part that actually gives you the most feedback to make it better. And that is doing it and putting it out there for feedback. If you're going to do something, yes, plan and plot and contemplate. Yes, dream big and try to get it right before you put it out there. But at some point, you have to start doing what I now do, which is to say, it's good enough. It's good enough. Now, this isn't going to work for everything. Some things require things to be perfect to ensure that it's more likely that the thing succeeds than not. For instance, if you are Elon Musk and you're firing a rocket into space and you want the rocket to come back down and land, you got to have things pretty perfect to get it to do what it's supposed to do and not explode on its way down or not land in the wrong place or whatever the thing is, right? I don't understand that world as much as, let's say, Musk does and his team. But I do understand that when that rocket goes up and does its thing and is coming back down the same way it went up, coming back down, right side up, it's coming and it has to land perfectly. That requires perfection to a T. If perhaps one little thing is off, it's not going to work. So there are times when you have to say, I got to make things perfect. But here's the thing. I guarantee you, Musk and his team, when they were putting those things together, they failed a bunch of times in tests and doing things, because it's not just all about theorizing and putting it out and then it's perfect. It's about theorizing and imagining and creating the thing, trying the thing, seeing what works and doesn't work, right? Getting analytics, getting feedback, getting your observations, getting the experience. That gives you additional, sometimes more valuable information about how something actually works in the real world, right? So it's the same for me. When I wanted to build my business, I was lucky that I was already in the mindset of taking action. And in fact, in starting to build my own business, I got better and better at taking action because I realized there's so many things to do, so little time, and you got to do. And as you're doing, you're learning. In fact, there's many things that I did building a business or perhaps any other number of projects that I've been involved in where I learned quite a bit more than I would have if I took the same amount of time just thinking forever and ever. Because it was the feedback and the information that I got in actually doing it that gave me what I needed to make it what? More perfect. So you see, it's not even just about not making something better and more perfect. I'm not saying don't do that. What I'm saying is there are parts and pieces and steps to it. And this is something I did not realize back in the day. As a classic overthinker, to me, I think that thinking extra is a good thing, but it is generally viewed as overthinking by others, and I recognize that. So for the sake of us having a conversation with the same language, let's say overthinking. So I overthought about certain things, and I thought that if I kept thinking, that I would learn more in my mind, that I would be able to see around the bend of all the different possibilities. And what happens is sometimes that's a really good thing, because seeing ahead of the curve and knowing what may be coming up, understanding the risks and the dangers and other things can put you in a great position to potentially survive. Let's say you're going camping or something and you're like, let me think of all the possible things that can go wrong. It's good to be prepared as best as you can in a camping situation or a road trip or traveling or backpacking or something like that, where you really need to make sure you've got all your ducks in a row. Because if something can go wrong, eventually it will go wrong. You've heard that before. And if you haven't, think about that. If something can go wrong, eventually it will go wrong. So you don't want your life and the life of perhaps your, significant other or friends, family, your children to be at risk because you didn't plan something out good enough, right? So there are still some cases in which seeing around the bend, seeing all the angles is good. In fact, I don't discount that is one of my greatest strengths as a problem solver, is seeing the constellation in the stars where other people don't see those connections, or seeing all the different possibilities of something to do risk assessment and to understand how to best approach a situation. But still, and yet, there is a time when you have to say, that's good enough. That's great enough. That is excellent enough. There comes a time when it is time to move on. There comes a time when it is time to take that thing to the next step or to complete it. Put it out there. See what people think. See what people say. See what you think. Give it time. Step away from the project and go do something else. My perfection caused me to take too long doing certain things in my life, to where it took even longer to then do other things in my life. Because just like you, I only have 24 hours or so. And in that 24 hours, I got to sleep. Now I got to be a great dad. I got to be there for my wife because I want to be there and because I have to be there because that is part of that deal. I have to enjoy myself sometimes and just decompress and do something that doesn't have to do with creating and doing and thinking, and which is constantly what I do. But then the rest of the time, I only have so much time to do things, and things take time. So prioritizing, first of all the things you have to do, that's important. But also getting through that list, that's important. That's important. Now, if you think about what I'm saying, and if you are telling yourself, oh yeah, man, I really needed to hear that, because I procrastinate, you're going to have to be the judge when and where something becomes procrastination. When does something become procrastination? How long do I need to wait or keep working on something before I'm just being a perfectionist and I'm essentially procrastinating through trying to make something perfect? How long am I procrastinating by thinking that the universe will just hand me what I want before I realize that the universe isn't going to give me anything? Sometimes I get lucky and things work out. But if I don't do something, I'm not going to get what I want out of life. Now, keep in mind, the universe will give you some things, but you should assume you're not going to get almost any of the things you truly desire in life because nobody owes you anything. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to help. And you might think that sounds really negative. Nobody's coming to save me. Nobody's coming to help. What are we, just alone in the world by ourselves? No, we're not. But in the end, if you don't go, ensure that the universe and the world that you live in, that your reality moves in the direction you want it to move. If you don't become the director of your movie, the author of your story, the God of your own universe, then you are leaving it in the hands of other people, other circumstances, chance to make things work out. And that's something that I did for many, many, many years of my life. I did a great job when I was involved in things like work and other things. I put my all in it because I really do care about the outcome of things reflecting well on me. There's a big difference between the people who just kind of wing it. Whatever life throws at me, whatever happens, happens. I'll deal with it. And the people who say, I'm going to take life by the you-know-what, the kahunas, and I'm going to own this life. I'm going to make it mine. Now, those people don't get everything they want just because they said they'd get it. But I guarantee you they get quite a bit more than the person who's sitting around just hoping things work out or finding meaning in the random things that happen to them because they say, well, that's easier. Or that gives you some false sense of comfort because, well, I don't have to work hard and I could just be happy with whatever happens. But what if you're not happy with what happens? What if you're not truly happy and fulfilled with things in the way they are? I know people like this. I know people who, they just take things as they are and they say, everything happens in its own time. Everything happens for a reason. Sure, but we can also give reason to the things that happen and the way they happen. We are creators. We are not mere spectators that are supposed to sit here and just observe what's going on and just say, okay, I'm along for the ride. We are here to create. We have the power to create. That's why we have creative minds and imaginations. We can imagine a world for ourselves, a life for ourselves, circumstances that we get to live through and live in that are different than perhaps what would happen if we didn't do anything about it. We can imagine a better way. We can imagine the way we desire, and we can then go and move heaven and earth. I don't necessarily mean that literally, but what I mean is move the world, move things. We live in a physical three-dimensional world. Things have to move and change. Things in your mind have to change, right? Your mind is constantly changing. Your body has to move to grow. Things have to move for anything to happen. Otherwise, if everything stayed exactly still, there'd be nothing. This world is meant to move and change. And the question is, who's moving it and who's changing it? Now you might say, oh, it's God or it's chance or it's random. But that's lazy thinking. Because you listening to me right now can go do anything. Anything after this podcast, when you listen to it, you could just go do it or try to do it, right? Because you may go to do something and not achieve it, at least not first. Try again. So then the question becomes at that point, well, then who's doing the moving, right? The procrastinator and the perfectionist. The person who's both of those things. They're probably not doing as much as they could do, even though their heart and soul is in something, because they're trying to make something perfect. That was me, always trying to make things perfect. It wasn't because I was lazy. It wasn't because I was sitting around going, I don't want to do things and whatever happens, happens. It wasn't like that at all. Anything I was in, I was all in. I'm still like that to this day. If I'm in something, I'm in something. In it to win it. But I thought I had forever. I now recognize very much that's not true. I don't have forever. Neither do you. I have forever? No. Can I make something perfect? No. But I didn't know that. And I was trying to make things perfect. But then there's people who procrastinate because they think that they're just going to deserve something from the universe just for being. That the universe is just going to swoop in and just hand you everything you need. It's not true. Anyone telling you that is feeding you a lie that is going to hurt you if it hasn't hurt you already. And it's going to hurt you more the more you buy into it and carry that idea forward. This idea that things will just happen for us, especially because we will it, we think it, we will it, we pray for it, and it just happens, that is not how it works. That's what you're getting wrong. You have to participate in the process. You have to do something. The universe is going to meet you halfway, or God, or whatever it is. You've got to do for things to be done for you. You have to tell people what you want to get what you want. Oh, I ordered the wrong drink at a Starbucks. Oh, I guess I'll just take that drink because that's what they gave me, and maybe it was meant to be. No, excuse me, ma'am. I'm sorry, they made me the wrong drink. Can I please have the drink I ordered? Oh, yeah, no problem. See, the difference between the person who just says, whatever, maybe it was meant to be, and then they get the drink and they drink it and they're like, I don't like this. Or maybe they try a drink they never tried before and they love it. Chance, random. I knew what drink I wanted going in. That's the drink I want. But then you have somebody who tries the drink that they didn't want and they go, yeah, but I discovered something new and beautiful and amazing. See, I just let the universe guide me toward the... No, you took random as that it's always going to work out that way instead of being in control. And what I'm advocating for you right now, what I want you to think about with me, and definitely share your thoughts with me. I mean, if you disagree with this or you have a different experience, share it with me. But understand what I'm saying. I'm being very clear about something. I'm acknowledging that both things randomly that you do just because you feel like, I'll just do it that way, wing it, whatever happens, happens, can work out and sometimes work out really well. But chances are you won't get what you want, and you won't get it most of the time. Because then it's just whatever happens, whatever other people are doing, and this is going to be the next part we're going to talk about, whatever other people are doing impacts your life because you are not in control of it. Someone's doing something that's impacting you. So is it going to be you or is it going to be someone else? So for the person who's procrastinating because they're thinking everything will just work out, everything will just play out, things happen for a reason, blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying things don't happen for a reason. I'm saying that explanation does not mean by doing nothing, everything's just going to work out. And I've heard people say this. That's why I'm sharing it. So then what do? Right? It's like, well, I don't want to try to control everything and be disappointed when things don't work out. I don't want to stress about trying to control everything. What are you talking about? You might be stressed right now that things aren't working out because you're not doing anything. What about that stress? I would much rather be stressed and in control. Stressed and in control of taking action, of being part of the process, of learning from things that don't end up working out, right? Because just because you do something doesn't mean it works out the first time or the second time. You've got to be consistent, persistent, and keep showing up. And that's how you learn. That's how you gain experience. Because sometimes you're going to fail, which is not really failure, right? But you're going to learn from those failures if you keep getting up and saying, what do I learn from that? What can I take from that? How can I help other people based on how I failed? You're going to do all these things. So failure is a good thing because it leads to success. Success is not just success. Success is repetitive failure and success over and over that eventually, hopefully, is going in an upward trending line over time. Now, how much time that takes and when it shoots up sharp and when it drops sharply and when it goes up steadily and then shoots up again, we don't know those things, right? We just do our best to be the one in charge so that we're the one gaining the experience, so that we're the one learning the lessons, so that we're the one trying to steer the ship in the direction we want to go so we land on the island with the treasures that we wanted to go to. And not in another totally different direction, landing somewhere completely different and going, well, maybe it was meant to be that I landed here. But that's not where you were trying to go. Well, maybe I don't know where I want to go. Maybe God is trying to steer me. If that were the case, then there's no point to anything. That is just God playing out a chess game or some game that he created for himself or it created for itself. God created a game whereby everyone in the game is just stuck and shackled to whatever God is trying to do. And I don't believe that's it at all. I believe you have free will. I believe God did that on purpose. Now, you don't have to agree with me that God is the one who did it. It's not the point of this, right? We're open-minded here. We're all learning together. I do believe in that there's a God. I'm a non-religious person. I don't follow a particular religion. But I do believe there's a God, and I do believe God willed all of this to be. I also believe God created everything so that we have the ability to create and do new things that even God itself did not expect. And in doing so, the universe and all possibilities are constantly expanding. We'll spend more time on that another day, because that's a good one, talking about God and infinity and expansion and the reason behind all this stuff that we're experiencing and why. That's a good one. But we're not talking about that today, although it does tie in, because you either believe that God put you here with the ability to do stuff and create things and make decisions and chart your own course, or you believe that God didn't do that and you're a puppet. What a depressing reality that is. I'm a puppet on a stage and God is just pulling all my strings, telling me what to do. It's God's plan. What a terrible, terrible vision to have for oneself. No, I believe God intended for us to be free. And in doing so, that means you have some power. You also have responsibility, right? In being free, there's responsibility there. So I don't want to procrastinate because, first of all, I want to get more things done. I want to create more things. Life is short. But I also don't want to procrastinate because it's actually doing the opposite of helping me make something perfect. And remember earlier I said there's at least two different reasons people procrastinate. One is because they want to make things perfect. Another is because they think things will just work out and they're being lazy about it. It could be a combination of those. It might even be something else. But those are the two I see most often. Is that either somebody's trying to make things perfect, putting it off, or the person thinks they have forever and they'll just do it another day, which is a little bit of laziness, right? Because I don't want to do it now. There'll be another time where I'll be in the mood to do it. And so either way, we are taking away our own opportunity to create the life we want to create when we procrastinate. So what I had to do for myself, because I noticed at some point in my life, I'm like, this is not the way I want to live. I don't want things to be this way. I want to get more done. I want to see more accomplishments than just the ones I have. And I know I'm taking way too long for some of these things. I was all in for work. I worked 17 years in a job that I loved. And when I was doing that, I loved it. I mean, I was in it and I enjoyed it. And I was really there. And I just loved the work. Okay. And I loved the people. And there's other things. My wife, who I've been with since high school. We're high school sweethearts. So when I'm with my wife, I'm all in. Doesn't mean everything's perfect. Remember, we talked about that. Nothing's perfect. Especially when you get two different people trying to create one life together. That's an interesting challenge. And it's why a lot of people don't make it. But when you do make it, it makes things stronger. And we'll talk about relationships definitely in future episodes because that's really important. We want to make sure that when we're in something, we're all in it. But at the same time that we're giving ourselves the opportunity to get into new things to be all in on. And to keep creating and keep doing and not just get stuck. Some people get stuck. I was stuck on some different things because I was trying to get them perfect. Not realizing that had I just moved along and said, this is good enough for now, I would have put that thing out there and I would have given myself the opportunity to see how that thing sits with people, with myself, with time, with the world, to see how those things feel when they're out there. And then from there, I can say, okay, I'm learning a lot. Let me make it even better. I did not know that there was this other component to the process. And that's what I want you to recognize walking away from this. Whether you knew this already and this is just a highlight, I'm reiterating what you already know and sort of restoring your faith in this concept or just reminding you that it's the case. Or whether this is something you hadn't thought of yet in quite this way. And now that you're thinking about it, you're like, oh yeah. There's not just thinking, the overthinking problem. There's not just thinking about it, and making it more and more perfect in here. Because you're not just keeping the ideas and the actions and the plans you have in life up here. Eventually, they have to transcend your mind and manifest out into the real world. So once they manifest out into the real world, they got to look like something. They have to be something. And almost always, it will never be exactly what you had up here once you put it out there. And such is the challenge of the creator. And anyone out there who's creative and knows what I'm talking about knows what I'm talking about. And many people, by the way, are creative. You don't have to be creative by painting or making music or writing novels, but you can be creative in building a business. You can be creative in how you educate your child. There's so many different ways to be creative. We are creative every day, although some of us have lost that and lost our faith in ourselves, and that's a whole different problem. But generally speaking, we're all creative. We are creative spiritual beings living in a physical world. And in this physical world, things must become physical. You can't just keep a business in your head forever. You eventually have to bring the business out here and make it. You can't just keep a painting in your mind forever. You have to eventually come here and make the painting, really make it, right? And it may not look like, once you paint it, what you had up here. They're two different spaces and places. And so things come out differently. And the problem I had was I was trying to make things perfect out in the world to match what was going on in here. That is to say that in my mind, perfect meant that the thing out here needed to be exactly what was in here, or it wasn't perfect. And what's really interesting about that is that what's up here is not always as detailed and precise as what's out here. If I want to make a sculpture, ultimately that sculpture is going to end up looking like something when I'm done sculpting, right? It's going to look like something concrete. This is what it looks like. Here's the sculpture. But if I have an idea in my mind what it looks like, it's abstract. In your mind's eye, things are not exactly perfect. They're a little more abstract. They're malleable. They're not quite exactly something until you try to bring it out here. And when you do that, it will usually not match what's up here because they're just two different ways of visualizing things, seeing things, and actualizing them, right? So if you're an author and you want to write this great novel, which, by the way, is one of the problems I have this novel I've been wanting to write for a long, long time, and only recently have I started getting back into it, and I'm still worried I won't actually write it because it's taken me so long to put the thought to paper. But here's the problem. I've got the idea up here in my head. I can see the beginning to the middle to the end in a flash. I can see all the pieces and how they all interact with each other. But when you go to put that idea into words, you have to actually take the thoughts, put them into words. That's a whole different thing. Now everything is precise. There's an exact letter and punctuation, a word, sentence, paragraph, scenes, and orders. In a way, that's not the case up here. Up here, it's flowing, and it's changing, and it's always morphing, and it's perfect in the sense that it can be whatever it is at any given time and flow again into something else. But once I write the novel and it's complete in my hand, at a bookstore on a shelf, right, in an ebook format, made into a movie, well, it has to be explicitly, specifically something at every single point. This word, then this word, then this word, this scene, then this scene, then this scene, this chapter, then this chapter, then this chapter. There's a beginning, a middle, and end. And once it's done, it's done. It doesn't keep morphing and evolving. And in my mind, that mental version is perfect in that it is always evolving, among other things. And so that's what's interesting is for the perfectionist, you have to become okay at some point with that it's good enough. Another way of putting that is it's as close to what I'm going to get it to be right now in its most near perfect form that I have to move on or I'll never finish it. I have to move on or I'll never do another part of the story to complete it. Once it's done, I'll never move on to selling it, to publishing it. I'll never move on to making the next one. At some point, it has to be good enough. And for those of you that are procrastinating because you're lazy and you think you have all this time or you just don't think it matters, it does. If you're not in charge, who is? If not you, then who? If not now, then when? Life is not forever. You will not be here forever. Go do amazing things now. And yes, you can be in control. Yes, you can be in control. In fact, you will be if you choose to be. And you won't be if you don't. And in that sense, you're still in control. You're in control of choosing not to be in control, and you're in control of choosing to be in control. So if you could be one or the other, I say grab those reins, baby. Grab that steering wheel and make life what you want it to be, Oh, but it's not easy. It's not meant to be. That's part of how you build resilience and confidence and gain experience that you can have faith in because you've been through the struggle. You had to climb through forests and claw your way up the mountain to get to the top. That's what makes things worth it. Usually things that are super easy aren't that worthwhile because we don't put a lot of value on them. So if life is just handed to you and whatever happens, happens, and things should be easy and pop a pill to cure this thing and, get a quick answer from Google for that thing, if that's the way the world works, that easy, and you don't have to do anything, life becomes meaningless. Life becomes too easy. It sounds backwards, but don't we want to make our life easier? Don't we want to make things more convenient? Yeah, to a degree. But then you can go too far with that. So no, life is not meant to be easy, and no, you are not meant to just glide along in whatever way the wind takes you. You're not a lifeless feather that got plucked off of a pigeon and is floating in the wind. You're a human being. You're here to do awesome and amazing things, and the longer you take, the less you'll do. And sometimes the longer you take creating something or doing something or whatever the thing is, the more you hurt that thing. You're not only hurting yourself, you could be hurting that thing. I'm a believer in that we have to find balance in seeking perfection and in getting things done. And that might mean something different for you than it means for me. In fact, it should, because we're two different people. You have to find your comfort level. But I can't imagine a scenario whereby any of the extremes is good for anyone. There does have to be your subjective version of balance between doing and thinking, between taking your time and moving on to the next thing. I can't imagine a person who just sits there thinking all day, and that's worth it. I can't imagine a person who's sitting there just doing without thinking about what they're doing. Just anything they want to think to do. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Anything that they feel compelled to do next without any thought, they just do. That's going to get you in trouble too. Well, you got to stop and think sometimes. Sometimes you got to react. But most of the time, you want to think about what you're doing. How much do you think? How much do you do? That's for you to figure out. But be intentional about it. We are beings capable of being intentional. I am encouraging you to be intentional with everything you do in life. When you're doing something, you should know why you're doing it. Almost nothing should just be random. And you could say, well, I just follow my intuition. Well, that's not random. That's still intentional. Your intuition comes from somewhere. Your intuition is driven not only by some gut feeling, but by your observation of the world around you. What you've thought about the thing you're getting involved in. What you've contemplated, what you've learned. Intuition is not just a gut feeling. It just comes here and I just do it. No, there's a lot of other things involved. You have a gut feeling because you're thinking about stuff too. Your subconscious and unconscious mind are constantly thinking about stuff. And so there's many other angles to the gut feeling and to intuition. Either way, there's still intentionality there. You could be intuitive and intentional at the same time. So what in the world have we even talked about today? Well, we've explored various angles and different ways of viewing this idea of not procrastinating, why it's important, what kind of trouble you can get into, that you should find balance, that you need to get things done, that life is short. You can't just sit around waiting for nothing to happen. You are a creative being, meant to do things, meant to create, meant to move the world and shape it. All these things and more are things we've talked about, and I hope some of it, if not all of it, meant something to you. I hope it got you thinking about whether you're in control of your life or not, whether you are procrastinating too much or not, and why you're procrastinating, and what that means about what you can do to stop procrastinating. And I will tell you in full confidence saying this, that when I went from a procrastinator to an action taker, it changed my life for the better. When I went from overthinking everything and trying to make everything perfect, to thinking just enough to the point where I feel comfortable with a decision I have to make, then making that decision or doing that thing then evaluating what that experience means for it. And if I have to go back and try to improve and make things better, great. And then I could think some more based on the new data, based on the new information. But to move forward, it has to be thought, action, thought, action, thought, action. It's like left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, thought, action, thought, action. Somebody's going to turn that into a thing. Thought, action, thought, action. I should do that. I should turn it into some kind of meme or something online. Thought, action, thought, action, thought, action, thought, action. I just made it myself. Take that beat, put it to thoughts, action, and you got something magical there. So I want to thank you guys for being here. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this meant something to you. I hope this helped you in some way. Whatever it is you got from this episode, I hope you'll leave me a comment, send me an email, send me a message somewhere on social media. Let me know what you got from this. Let me know what else you want to hear about as far as topics regarding intentionality, getting your life straight, building your legacy, thinking for yourself, and enhancing, forging, and fortifying your own free mind. Any topic you want to talk about, I'm happy to discuss, especially if it's something that's going to help you to do better in your life, to take control of your life, to take action in your life, so that someday when your last breath comes and you're standing on the other side of forever, you look back at the life you made and you're proud of the legacy you left behind instead of dying with regret. So please reach out to me. Let me know what you think. Guys, I'll see you at the next podcast episode or somewhere else. Who knows? Take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your day and make sure you make today and tomorrow and every day a day worthy of your legacy.